Hi, so I'd like to talk again about global cooldowns. Now, this isn't about the global cooldowns on the offensive cooldowns, because that seems to be a bit of a dead duck. We're not likely to get any joy from that one. Now, as a rep paladin, of course, it's not a big deal. In the alpha, you sort of get used to the fact that my only offensive cooldown, I should say, is on the global cooldown. Obviously, there are classes and specs that have got it far, far worse. They're basically buggered. But that's a battle for them to fight if they want to. The thing I'm mostly thinking about is global cooldowns on other abilities. I was talking about this on a live rec Q&A last night with Soul Sakura, and defensives and mobility. Now, for me, defensives and mobility as a PvE player, particularly PvE player in high-end raiding, are largely reactive. Yes, sometimes there's certain things going to come in on, you plan to use them. But a lot of the time it's very reactive. Something comes in and you need to use it immediately. Now, when something's on the global cooldown, it's very difficult to do that because, of course, you're using your normal abilities, so your GCD, your globaled, until then that comes off and then you can use it again. And especially, the mobility I have, for example, is a 3-second movement speed boost. 3 seconds. So I might have to wait for a second before I can even use it. So that, very, very tight moving out of things. Think particularly in terms of Mistress Sassine. I can't remember the name of the abilities anymore, but the big fish jumps over and you have to get out of the way. Now, of course, they did nerf that a little bit by giving you a little bit longer to get out. But in the days before that happened, split second, you had to sort of know when it was coming in and almost stop DPS a second before it came in so that you wouldn't be global and you were able to use your movement speed to get out if you found that you were right in the middle of the thing and needed to move the maximum distance. So those sorts of things are very, very difficult to sort out. The same comes with defensives. I remember in Warlords of Draenor in particular, but this has happened a few times in Legion as well, but the WoD one was the most annoying because I was doing Mythic Gruul and it was our kill. But it wasn't a fast kill, so he got into Berserk when he went around munching on everyone else. I was top DPS at the time. And then he turned around and smacked me. Now, as soon as he turned around, bang, I hit that bubble. But it wasn't quick enough, globaled. It's on the global cooldown. And I could see on the video replay me, you could see the sort of button on the action bars being depressed. But it made no difference because it wasn't able to activate just yet. And I died, and a gnome beat me on DPS. So these things are reactive, and I just think should be off the global cooldown. Now, Blizzard's argument is very much that, well, imagine yourself in a PvP situation. All of their arguments are for PvP situations for this, and they say you have a choice between you're on low health and potentially in danger of dying, but you could save yourself with a defensive. Or you see that an opponent is on low health, you could fire off an offensive ability. And they say that they don't want you to be able to do both. They don't want you to be able to activate your defensive and fire off the offensive ability in that split second. And therefore basically get both options available to you. You should have to choose. But the issue there, again, that's purely for PvP. None of the arguments are in a PvE setting. So what I am proposing, and I've written a forum post. I've put it in the alpha sections. So what, obviously only people who are in the alpha would be able to respond to it. But if you are, then I would love it if you could respond to it with your thoughts. You may disagree to mine, by the way, that's fine. Same as when I've done any of these sort of videos. What I really want is engagement with it. But I would like support on it, definitely. Because what I'm proposing is that we separate out based on whether you're doing PvE or PvP. So in other words, if you're doing PvE, then it's off the global cooldown. Any defensives or mobility abilities are off the global cooldown. If you're in PvP situation, then it's on the global cooldown, which is what Blizzard want. I know there'll be some PvP players who also want it off the global cooldown, but you really are not going to win that argument. Blizzard are pretty determined on that one. But looking at their arguments, I don't think they're very determined on the PvE thing. And my argument is especially that this should be now easy to do. Because with Battle for Azeroth, PvE and PvP are completely separate beasts. Completely separate. There is no mixing up of it. Already, a lot of the high-end content is instance anyway. So for PvE, you've got dungeons, you've got raids. There's no harm at all in taking it off the global cooldown there because that's a pure PvE experience. We also have the islands. We have war fronts, And then for PvP, other instance ability, now we have the PvP island versions there. You've also got battlegrounds, you've got arenas. So very easy there. The only sticking point has ever been when you're out in the world. But that is now going to be separate because of war mode. If you flag yourself as war mode on, that is you choosing to be a PvP beast, and therefore you also choose to have it on the global cooldown. If you flag yourself as war mode off, then you're choosing to be a PvE beast, which means you should get the benefits of PvE, which means, as there's no argument as far as I can tell for them being on the global cooldown for PvE, then that means those abilities should be off the global cooldown. So that is my proposal. So let me know what you think, of course, and if you can't respond on the forums, by all means respond here and share potentially with other people that you know who are on the alpha. Maybe you could point them the way of that post. I'm going to put a link to it in the description below, of course. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share for further details. And until next time, I'll see you later.